Hi folks, the purpose of this training video is to walk through the integration of Tempered with Okta's authentication platform. There's two primary reasons you might want to integrate Tempered with Okta. The first is you may want to just authenticate users who are connecting to the Tempered Airwall conductor to perform operations within that orchestration platform. The second is if you want to require that remote Airwall agents who are connecting into your environment have a second factor of authentication. You can leverage something like Okta so that they need a second device to connect into the environment for access. The first thing we'll do is take a look at a working configuration. So once you've integrated Okta into your environment and you go to the login page of the conductor, you can either log in using the conductor credentials or this other authentication provider. In this case, I've named it Okta, and you can customize this name. We'll click Sign In, and now you're prompted for your Okta credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my credentials just using Dashlane to log in. And now I'll require the second factor of authentication. I'll send a push, and you can see here on my phone, I'm now going to go in and approve that on my phone. My second factor of authentication. Okta has now notified the conductor that this user can log in, and you can see I'm now logged in as Rick Searing. And if we go look at that particular user, it should show up under as an Okta user, so as a system administrator role. And we'll see how those roles get mapped into Okta when we go through the configuration. Now let's look at a second example where we've got a remote access agent. So I've got a remote access agent here that has connectivity into this environment. So everything's working. I'm connected through a relay into several sites. But note that user authentication is disabled. So let's look at how we set that up in the conductor. I'm actually going to sign out from here and just go in using this credential in order to configure this. So if we go to our remote Airwall agent, we can simply go in. Now my conductor is already set up to leverage Okta, so I can just go into this agent, click Edit Settings, and scroll down and click Require Authenticated Airwall Session. So I'm going to choose the provider that I've set up called Okta. That isn't a built-in name, that's a name we created, and you'll see that in a bit when we go through the configuration steps. So go ahead and click Update Settings. Note that you can customize the logout timing as well. On our remote Airwall agent, you can now see that it says that we're requiring user authentication, and we no longer have access to the devices that we were able to reach before. And again, the user is prompted, use Okta in a new web browser. So we'll click on that. User should be taken to the Okta environment to authenticate. So at this point, I'll go ahead and log in. And accepted that username and password. Now we need to enter the passcode, the one-time passcode for that user. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that as soon as it transitions to the next one, so I make sure I have plenty of time. And we'll click Verify. So there's our second factor of authentication. The user is then asked to confirm the remote session authentication. At that point, the agent is authenticated, and you can see traffic starts immediately to all of the remote sites without the user having to do anything. So they're just asked to authenticate with the second factor, and they can connect to the environment. Next, let's take a look at how all of this gets set up, both in Okta and in the conductor. As a reminder, there's also a tempered Okta integration guide, and this guide also goes through step-by-step how to configure things in both Okta and the conductor. So let's take a quick look at an Okta setup. This is a pretty minimal account, so yours obviously could be more complex. I've just set up a developer account in Okta, and I'm using the classic UI here. So the first thing we had to do is create an application. So I've got an application, I just called it Tempered Conductor. And within that application, if we just look at the general settings, the application type is web, and the client acting on behalf of a user authorization code is the allowed grant type that you want to configure. Then you'll need to set up the login redirect URI, the logout redirect URI, and the initiate login URI. So these are going to be the URL of your conductor followed by this specific string. This is also documented in the conductor itself. So it's going to be user auth openid underscore connect / callback. The logout redirect UI is just the URL of your conductor, and the initiate login URI is the same as the redirect URI. If we scroll down a little bit further, you'll see the client ID and the client secret. These are going to be needed when you configure the conductor side of OpenID Connect. Next, we can go over to security and the API, and we'll click on the default authorization server. And there's a couple important elements here, really two different things, scopes and claims. So if we go into scopes, we need to create a scope called groups. And if we look at the settings there, it's simply a scope called groups, and you can put in a description, but and then we want to set these two settings the way they are here. Metadata set to include in public metadata. And then if we look at claims, we have to add a claim called groups, and so it's going to be an ID token always. The value type is going to be groups, and this is really important. We're going to kind of filter on starts with COND. Now the assumption here is that all of your groups are set up using something that begins with COND, and you'll see how that ties in a little bit. For the default ones that we have set up in the conductor are cond system admins, cond network admins, cond read-only, and cond remote users. And then include in any scope. So again, just we set up a scope and a claim in the default authorization server API. Next, we'll just need to create, if we go to the directory tab, we'll need to create groups, and then we can add people into those groups. So here again you see the names of the groups. These should match what you're configuring in the conductor. I'm showing the 4 default ones that we choose, but you can choose any name you'd like, and then we'll configure that in the conductor. And this is what allows you to map when you assign a user in Okta to this particular group. That's going to actually map into a role in the conductor. So we're going to look at examples of system admins and remote users. Next, we'll need to add a user or people, and I've got a couple of example ones here where I've gone in and set up these people, and you can configure various MFA settings and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into those details here, but then if you look at the particular groups, you want to make sure the people that you want in the particular groups. For example, I've got Rick Searing in this group, system admins, and that's what we're going to use to log into the conductor. So those should be the main pieces within Okta. Next, we'll take a look at how to set up the conductor. Next, let's look at how to set up the conductor to support Okta. I've already got the environment configured, and we're just going to walk through the specific configuration. In this case, I'm using release 228. I've got hotfix 3 installed as well, which I don't think is applicable to this situation, but just to note that. If we scroll down a little bit on the right-hand side, we've got the authentication area, and there's a number of other settings here that relate to authentication as well. But initially, you're just going to go in and add a provider, or in this case, I already have one configured, and I'm going to go ahead and click Edit in order to take a look at the configuration. So the first thing you need to set up is the provider name. This is actually what shows up in that login screen. So it may make more sense for you to put, your company name -Okta or whatever will make sense to your users. Next, we put in the conductor host. So that's just the URL of your conductor. In my case, trainingdevelopment.temper.network. And then as described here, we're going to configure the Okta OpenID Connect host. So for Okta, this comes from the environment that we just created. In fact, if I go in, it can be a little bit confusing if you go in and look. I'm just going to pull over Okta. So for example, if we go to Security API, and you can see it shows an issuer that has /OAuth 2/default. That may work. I found it works just fine to just put in the main URL of the Okta instance, and for both the OpenID Connect host and the issuer. Next, like we showed before, you can go into the application and look up the client credentials. The client ID is here and the client secret is here. So I'm going to grab those and just paste those directly into this area. For Okta, you can check use OpenID Connect Logout. That is an option. Next, we're going to set up the groups. So almost in every case, you're going to use groups to manage roles, so leave that checked. And this is where you can configure the group that is set up in Okta and how it maps into a role within the conductor. And you can also add multiple here. I'm showing the 4 default ones, but I could also go in here and just put in, vendor A, for example. And now if I have vendor A in Okta, it's going to map into a remote access type user. The first time a user in that group in Okta logs in, it'll actually create the people group within the conductor. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and use a filter just like we did within Okta. I tend to just use starts with COND and keep all of my groups starting with COND. That keeps it fairly simple if you've got a lot of groups within Okta. So you can go ahead and click finish there. I'll click cancel. When you click finish, it'll actually restart, log you out of the conductor, and you'll have to wait about 30 seconds and then you can come back in. And then you can go ahead and test it. So that should be it. That's the conductor side of things. It's fairly straightforward. And then you can move on to validating the configuration, which we'll review again next. Now let's review how things look once they're set up. So let's go through another example. Now when we look at the conductor and you come back in, you now have the option to authenticate using the authorization provider. So we'll click Okta, and in this case, let me use a different example where I go into the read-only admins group, and I've added a user called read-only with and I've already onboarded this user with a password and multi-factor authentication. So we'll go ahead and log into the conductor using that user. So I'll click sign in, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. Username, password. I've got to go to my Okta Verify app and look up the code for this particular user. And I'll enter it there. And now Okta notifies the conductor that this user is okay and what group they should be in. So if we look at who I'm logged in as, I'm now logged in as read-only. And read-only, again, is an Okta user, and they're mapped to the read-only system administrator role. So if I look around, for example, in my environment, I can click on a particular Airwall and click on some ports, but I don't have the ability to make any changes. Same thing with an overlay. I don't have the ability to add any devices or change policy. In summary, we've shown how to perform an Okta integration with Tempered's Airwall Conductor. So we've gone in and set up a pretty basic OpenID Connect application within Okta, and then configured the conductor to talk to it. So the key thing is getting your group names and roles mapped properly. After that, it should be a pretty straightforward integration. Hope this has been helpful. Thanks, and have a good day.